Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new live stream. Make sure you guys like the stream down below, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and hit that like button so we can hit 100 likes so we can turn on the face cam. We got a lot to talk about. I kind of want to get to the people, not taking calls during this particular stream, but I kind of am interested in seeing what a lot of you guys have to say about the general vibe about this election, because we are thrown uncertainties for sure. We've been thrown quite a bit of a loop, but it's not something that a lot of people are not really prepared for. So we hit 100 likes. We're going to turn on the face cam and we're ready to go. We're ready to go. But this is an election that's shaping up to be unlike any other. Over the past couple of months, we've seen so many twists and turns, and we saw the former and possibly future president of the United States get convicted in a sham trial. We've seen the current president just completely come close to just having a stroke on the debate stage. And then we've seen the media fallout, the media turn on Biden, basically using it as an avenue to push him out. And then he actually gets pushed out, but not until after the former and possibly future president of the United States was miraculously saved from an assassination attempt that was meant to essentially take his life away, plain and simple. Just turned his head at the most opportune time possible, and the bullet pierced his ear instead of piercing something else, and would have caused a very, very different timeline. Very different timeline. But they got their way. They've threatened Biden with the 25th Amendment. That's kind of what the rumor pool is circulating. That's what it's saying. They said that they were going to threaten Biden with the 25th Amendment. If he did not step aside, they were going to push him out. They were going to make it even worse for him. Basically, all these donors withdrew their support because they know he can't beat Trump. They admitted defeat. They admitted that they were going to lose and that there was nothing that they could do, so they made their guy step down. All the things they've thrown at Trump, they did not stick. Now they're going back to the drawing board, trying to see if they possibly can polish an entirely different new turd in order to generate energy, generate enthusiasm. And is it going to work? Well, the jury's still out on that. Doesn't really seem as if Kamala Harris is the favorite. She polls, in many cases, worse than Joe Biden in terms of the favorable rating. And that's without her being attacked in attack ad after attack ad by the Republicans, even though they've seemingly been prepared. Pennsylvania, we've gotten a lot of reports that people are seeing a lot of anti-Kamala ads, even some that are being run by Dave McCormick, which still helps out because obviously the target of the ad is Bob Casey, but about 80% of the ad is just dunking on Kamala Harris for being liberal and being very radical to the left on a lot of things, even compared to Joe Biden. So that's kind of what you're seeing right now. Her image is already in a rut. It's already in the gutter. Democrats are going to try to resuscitate it. They're going to try to get people to, be guilt-tripped into supporting her. They're going to try to drum up energy. That's what they're trying to do, of course. But is it going to work? Well, Republicans have all this ammunition that they can use. So it's just something that is kind of a wash in a way when you try to look at it from all angles. Of course, Kamala Harris can complete a sentence, I guess. But if you've seen her ask questions, she gives these word salads, these insane word salads that mean nothing. She just talks in a circle. It's not like in an evasive, intelligent way. It's just in a word jumble, word salad. You throw a bunch of things together. It definitely doesn't taste good, and you go from there. That's what she does. In many cases, she comes off as less coherent than Joe Biden, despite her not being able to use her age as an excuse. It's mainly because she's just not a very intelligent individual, and that's the way it is. A lot of Republicans will say you should not be attacking her personal life or how she got to where she is, and you should be attacking her policy. I get that policy should come first and foremost, but there is still the element of, no, if they're going to attack Trump for his personal life, there's no reason why Republicans can't attack Harris for her personal life, depending on how they do it, of course. You want to be careful about it for sure. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be front and center, but it doesn't mean it can't be there either. I mean, you talk about Kamala Harris. How did she get her start? And I'm not talking just about the Willie Brown stuff, but that is important. You know, it's something that is scandalous. They talk about Trump and they throw out these alleged affairs. Well, what about this one? You're not allowed to talk about it. You're not allowed to talk about it if it's a woman doing it, but if it's a man doing it, it's perfectly fine to talk about. Is that really how this is going to work? I think the answer is no. It shouldn't really work that way, especially because Donald Trump was already in a position of his career that's kind of what enabled him to probably, you know, meet all these women or whatever, if we want to play that card. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, decided to have an affair with Willie Brown, who is a prominent member. I think he was mayor of San Francisco at the time, before Gavin Newsom was mayor of San Francisco. And she was able to advance her political career off of that. And she, again, got into a very low-tier law school. And with affirmative action, she was unable to really get into that good of a school, probably barely got in. That was probably the best school she could go to, is UC Hastings. Probably a 152, 153 on the LSAT, not really presidential level of intellect right there. So she gets that position. Then she gets with Willie Brown. And then she eventually works her way up. She's a district attorney, and then she becomes the Attorney General of California. Let's talk about that election, because that's crucial, because she got 46% of the vote as a Democrat in California. If ranked choice voting existed in California, which is what a lot of Democrats love to talk about, ranked choice voting, Kamala Harris would not have even been elected. She wouldn't have won that election because of the third-party candidates in the mix. They mainly took away from the Republican. You had the Libertarian Party. You had some other right-leaning third parties in the mix. Technically, the Green Party as well was there too. But still, if you crunch the numbers, you do the math, Kamala Harris should not have won that election in a head-to-head. And that's embarrassing, given the fact that you're a Democrat running in California. I don't care what year it was. All the other Democrats, they won with, they won with a decent margin. But she was unable to do that. So that's kind of an issue. She won re-election against a nobody. Even then, she couldn't even crack 60. She won the Senate seat against a very low-profile Democrat as well, very underfunded. She lost the Hispanic vote to them. And then she gets to run for president. She gets, a little bump after the first debate because she was the only one to have the balls to go in at Biden, because she was the only one who they allowed to go in on Biden, because she was the other, backup option for the establishment, even though she does pander a lot to the far left, which is also, in many regards, controlled opposition. So after that, she faltered. Tulsi Gabbard essentially destroyed her career. In one debate, it was over. Then from there, she drops out of the race in December of 2019. She was polling below Andrew Yang, below Tom Steyer. You might even not remember who Tom Steyer is. Probably a good 30%, 40% of the audience doesn't know who he is or doesn't remember who he is. But she was polling below these no-names at the time after she launched her campaign and was campaigning for months, essentially. Usually when you don't leave a race with less percent than you announce. She joins the Ron DeSantis club in that regard, and she's running a very similarly terminally online campaign so far. She got a lot of noise working on her side. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate to votes in the real world, especially among the voting age demographic, but we'll see. But this is who Kamala Harris is. She was picked off the trash heap of the Democrat Party and put on the ticket because the media, after the George Floyd incident, was pressuring Joe Biden to select a black woman. And then when he does it, and he selects probably the only one that I guess was kind of like seen as a blank slate by a lot of people, still had a lot of baggage. But, after he made that decision, she was already anointed as the successor. And a lot of people at the time didn't take it seriously that Kamala very well could have assumed the presidency because, Biden's cognitive decline was a right-wing conspiracy theory at the time. Well, it was proven correct. You see the guy. You saw him on that debate stage. You saw how his own party cooed him because of it, because they knew that he couldn't defeat Donald Trump. Even though Biden wanted to run, His staffers were tweeting hours before he supposedly dropped out that he was gonna keep fighting and stay in the race. I wake up and I check my phone. I'm like, what the hell is going on? He's dropping out? Really? This quickly? Like, I didn't know it would be happening, but it was. They essentially forced him out because they know that they can't defeat Donald Trump with him. The real question is, can they defeat Donald Trump with Kamala Harris, with all the dirt that they have on her? This is mainly a ploy to get more money, shake up the race, bring optimism, even if it's false optimism. They're going to bring some optimism. Democrats are back to their insufferable take posting about their wish cast for the election, and we see it. And they just really have to cling to that level of hope and think that, oh, well, now that there's some new energy, that they're going to go out there and they're going to get more voters to turn out. Because this is not a ploy to moderate. This is not a ploy to pick off Trump voters. In fact, if anything, it might lose them voters. What Trump voter is going to say, I don't like Biden, but I'll vote for Kamala Harris? Those people probably don't exist. You might say there's people that are, questioning Biden's cognitive decline, and maybe they're open to both candidate. Maybe some of them will come home to Harris. Maybe enthusiasm on the Democrat side goes up. I agree. 100% true. I'm not denying that. But Trump also polls better. She also polls better. There's more polarization. There's a lot less movable vote. When you look at the polls between Trump and Harris, you see it on the screen. It's like 6%, give or take, undecided. With Trump and Biden, it was like 8 or 9%, give or take, undecided. So already there's less undecided voters already in the mix. That's what's happening. That's what's going on. Maybe she'll be able to take away some like Jill Stein voters, maybe. Maybe she'll be able to take some away from Cornel West. But she arguably could lose some voters, lose some support when she's attacked on the policies, which is only just beginning. She's less popular overall than Donald Trump. I mean Joe Biden and Donald Trump both, of course. So that's kind of the main issue. That's the main issue that Kamala Harris has to deal with right now. But you look at these numbers, some people are going to they'll cling to the Reuters poll, which has been entirely conducted online, conducted within one day. They'll ignore all other polling. The polls with Trump up by 6 that came out yesterday, they'll throw those in the garbage. They'll cling to a poll. They'll be loud. They'll be very loud. They'll be very obnoxious. But even Marist, one of the furthest left-leaning polls in the country, Quinnipiac, they can't even manufacture a Kamala Harris lead, despite having heavy Democrat oversamples, which again, that kind of could be something where maybe they are oversampling right-leaning independents. I don't like cross-tab diving too much. I think it's kind of a pointless endeavor. But still, she's in a lot of trouble. It's not like the election is 50-50. But still, you have to understand that whenever there is a level of uncertainty, there's going to be questions and people are going to scramble. And they scrambled on the left. They're still scrambling on the left, by the way. It's not like everything over there is all fine because they have a nominee. They picked a very unpopular nominee. They went from an historically unpopular nominee to another historically unpopular nominee. They think it's going to save them. They think they're going to be able to beat Donald Trump. But so far, what exactly have we seen? We might see a Kamala polling bump for now, just because, maybe Trump versus somebody else. Some of the people that don't like Trump will say they'll vote for them even if they don't like Biden. Those people are not maybe all that acquainted with Kamala Harris. But even so, she's not even winning the polls. And she probably would have to win the popular vote by 4 just to go out there and win the election, because she's even more poison in the Rust Belt than current Joe Biden is. And it's not really that likely that adding a generic, random generic token white guy to the ticket's going to help her. She picks the wrong one, it might hurt her a little bit, but again, it's very rare historically that vice presidential picks are going to make a ticket or break a ticket. They might serve a purpose of party unification or whatever, or base enthusiasm. But in this case, I mean, Harris is somebody that will enthuse the Democrat base, but she's also poison to independents, and that's also a problem. And she does also have problems with minority voters. Maybe not black women, but she doesn't do too well with black men. She doesn't do too well at all with Hispanics. She could even lose the Hispanic vote outright to Donald Trump, depending on how things go. And I really can't see her being that candidate when everything in her record is examined, which the time frame is narrow. But still, she bears the record of Biden's administration. She's not all that likable. Trump's favorability is improved, and, she has all these policies and all this baggage. She paid bail for rioters. She compared ICE, immigration enforcement, to the KKK, talked about abolishing ICE, co-sponsored the Green New Deal. All that policy dirt from 2019, it's back on full display. And except this time, unlike 2019, Donald Trump is leading the polls against every Democrat instead of trailing the polls against every Democrat. So we still have 3.5 months, a little bit less than that, to go. Probably about 3 months and 2 weeks, I think, between now and Election Day. It should be a lot of fun. We still, early ballots are going to be going out in less than 2 months. Early voting is going to be starting in less than 2 months. People need to be energized. People need to make sure they don't take this challenge lightly. I don't think Kamala Harris is all that scary. It's probably the best case scenario, possibly. But there is that level of uncertainty where they're pulling a fast one because, our nominee can't win. We'll just switch them last minute and we'll see how it happens. And there's a good chance it could backfire on them, but we need to stay vigilant as well because you can't take Kamala Harris as a surefire victory. And I'd say the same thing with Biden, but this level of complacency, I don't like either side. The dooming side, it's over now, they replaced their nominee. It's like it's Kamala Harris. It's very beatable. And then you have the other side, it's Kamala Harris, so we're going to just beat her on autopilot. Like, no, we got to fight for this. We still got to be smart. We got to make sure that we effectively tarnish her image already more than she's already tarnished it, because the media is going to try to do the biggest makeover campaign that we've ever seen in our lifetimes. And we cannot allow her to get, within 5 feet, 5 yards, 5 miles, 500 miles of the Oval Office. Because if you think Joe Biden was bad, if you think Biden is bad, imagine the damage that 4 or 8, if it is 4 years of Harris, it's going to be 8 years of Harris, for the record. The amnesty will go through, plain and simple, with Kamala Harris at the helm. You will get amnesty. You will get a lot of destructive things to our nation. This woman cares about power at all costs. She cares about pleasing her far-left base at all costs. Paying bail for rioters kind of showcases that. She's shameless, plain and simple, nothing else. That's who you put at the top of the ticket. They've already lost the argument on democracy. They've lost the argument on a 1-6, this and the other thing. We know that. They're out of arguments on Trump. Now they're going to try to sell us this product. They're going to try to sell America this product that's been rejected every single time, relatively speaking. Even in California, it wasn't the product was not well received in California. You think the product is going to be well received nationwide? I think the answer is no. But, like I said, we don't know how it's going to shake out. You could make the case that she's going to completely self-destruct on the national stage, but you could also make the case that, we've seen this movie play out, and you don't know how they're going to try to, reestablish her image. Obviously, I think the American people are smarter than to fall for a media campaign that's going to be astroturfed to hell. We know it. But again, you can't exactly account for everything. But it does show that they are button mashing. That's a good thing. We know that they're definitely in dire straits. They're not all that confident. If you're changing out your nominee, you're not confident. And the only reason why they're putting Harris out there, besides the identity politics aspect of it, is because they get to keep the money. If they amount to campaign from scratch with some no-name, it's not exactly going to have the same effect. Are they going to get the turnout necessary? The anti-Trump turnout probably isn't quite enough at this stage in the game. And with Kamala Harris, that's a pick that they're picking because they're hoping, oh, well, we'll get record high black turnout. This, that, and the other thing. We'll get more enthusiasm. Maybe younger voters. Maybe the far left will buy back in. But here's the problem. Her rally in Milwaukee, she got it seemed like 700 people or so. She filled an arena, a stadium. Oh, wait, no, it was a high school basketball gym, which, again, probably is a little bit more than Biden, and you would expect that because, oh, she's fresh on the scene now. People are going to check it out, see what it is. The crowd's all old white people, 95% of it. I mean, probably even more so than your average rally for Donald Trump. So is she really enthusiasing that crowd, or is it like the typical Democrat Hillary Clinton voter that she's appealing to, that votes based off of identity politics more so than anything else? Because that's kind of what it hints at for me. J.D. Vance is getting a lot of criticism lately because he made a joke about Mountain Dew, which, again, I think is the most ridiculous thing that people are up in arms about it. Whether they think J.D. Vance is, a charismatic guy or not is completely irrelevant. The guy got more people to show up just for him. Trump wasn't even there, but he got more people to show up just for him in the middle of nowhere than Kamala Harris got in the middle of Milwaukee, which is supposed to be an area where she needs very high turnout to win. So, again, crowd sizes don't tell us everything, but they can tell us enthusiasm. There was no crowd size for Biden in 2020, of course, but you did have BLM rallies with tens of thousands of people. A lot of people on the left were very politically active, even if they were not going to show up in the COVID circles for Joe Biden with 6 people. But, when you look at this election, is the left really buying in? I mean, Twitter is one thing, but the real world is a whole nother dynamic. And while her supporters may be very loud, this is probably their peak. Who knows what it's going to be like a week from now? Who knows what we'll be talking about? There's so much that's been changing. Will she even get the nomination? Will there be some other crazy thing that could happen? I think there's a 5% chance of that being the case. And while that sounds low and probably will sound low to some people who might think that there's still a chance it's somebody else, well, I mean, we've had a lot of events that have been far less than 1% likely to happen over the past few months that have come into fruition. So you absolutely never know what's going to happen. You never know. But we have been going for 23 minutes, and we're going to be getting to the Super Chats. We'll be getting to the Super Chats and seeing what the people have to say. What do you guys have to say? You look at the poll. We'll end the poll. But in the poll, it shows that a lot of people feel about the same. About an equal amount of people feel more confident or less confident. 9% don't know how to feel. And I honestly am kind of in the position where it's like a wait and see sort of ordeal. Personally, I'd still say that Kamala Harris is an easy candidate to beat. On paper, she's a dream come true for the Republicans, regardless of VP. But there is a level of uncertainty. There is a level of the media being unpredictable this cycle. And what effect will that have? Of course, the mainstream media has lost a lot of, they've lost a lot of, I guess you would say, credibility over the past 5 years and even the past 10 years in the eyes of the average median voter, which is good. But still, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Johnny Heartdog for 10 says, quick question. I'm pretty sure Harris will be the nominee, but let's say they do a bait and switch. Which candidate has the best shot at beating Trump? I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know who they would go out there and try to replace her with. People talk about Josh Shapiro. There's so much we don't know about Josh Shapiro. Maybe being a generic Democrat could help. Maybe you're just some random person. Oh, we'll make it a Trump v. Trump, essentially, is what they're trying to do. Is that going to work? At this stage in the game, probably less so, especially because just like McCain in 2008, the Democrat is going to have to bear the ties to this administration. Kamala Harris does that more than anybody else that possibly could be nominated, other than Joe Biden. Seriously. Citrus Peppercorn says, Republicans need to find a good way to attack Kamala. The creepy laughter and Willie Brown won't work with women. Well, I don't think women like Kamala Harris's personality either. I mean, we've seen polling that she's done worse with women than Joe Biden in some polls. You know, this notion that, that's, you can't show her in an ad laughing, even though the rest of the ad talks about policy. I think that's a running scared approach. I think that Republicans need to find a good way, but there's so many good ways to do it. I think on policy is important. Weak on crime, weak on the border, like that needs to be just it. She's weak on the border. And yeah, I think there are ads you could possibly just play of her just talking nonsense. Yeah, that could help, because it kind of showcases that she's not serious. They want to say Trump is not a serious candidate. They've said that ever since he came down the escalator. Well, let's show her in her own words being not serious. That also could work. Manny says, should Tulsi prep Trump for the debate? Well, I would say probably, I think you're reading into the debate in the Democrat primary too much if you think that, because this basically was one attack line where she went in at Kamala Harris. It was basically like a Chris Christie, Marco Rubio, type of ordeal. But I don't know how that would translate to a one-on-one debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. Trump knows all the talking points, and even then, she was basically trying to claim that Kamala was too tough on crime, which is not the argument that we likely need. I'm not saying you can't say she was a hypocrite about it. She was a hypocrite. She is a hypocrite. That is a problem. She locked people up for, these minor drug offenses and was laughing about it and then saying how she used to engage in the same behavior and listen to music that hadn't been released at the time she claimed that she engaged in that behavior in. She's a time traveler. She's listening to Tupac in the 1980s, even though his music was not released at the time. Let's see. Johnny Heartdog says Republicans are already trying to file lawsuits of impeachment against Harris. I think that's stupid. I think it's in their best interest to let this play out and let them run Kamala. I agree. I mean, I don't know what the impeachment does. It's just a waste of time. She's not going to get removed. She's probably not even going to get impeached. It's just kind of pointless. Some people are better at strategy than other people. I don't know what they're really trying to do here. I don't know. But what crime are they trying to impeach her for? The neglection of duty at the border? That's technically not a part of the job description of the vice president anyways. At that point, Biden should be the one that's being impeached as we speak, but they're not going to do that, and I don't really see a point of doing that. Don't give her any more power than she already has, even though it might kind of lower the novelty if she did become president. I don't want her as president, period. Sheriff Bear says one of her weak points is her time as California DA. She will likely get a lot more votes than Biden would. Still think we would get a close Trump win. So you're saying, I assume, that she would energize her base more. Because I don't think there's a single Trump voter that's like, oh, well, now I have to vote for Harris. Not a single one exists, I'm telling you. She's not if she was likable, maybe a different universe, it would be a different ball game, but that's really not how it works. It's not like, oh, I like both of these people, I'm choosing Kamala. In fact, there's probably some Biden voters that bail because it's going to be Kamala. And there's probably going to be more people that might turn out for her because there is energy on the left. And then there's also the aspect of more people turning out against her, and it could renew the energy on the right, which is kind of what Donald Trump needs to attempt to do. And he's going to be in North Carolina tomorrow doing a rally. He'll be in Minnesota on Saturday. So they're still focusing on expanding that map as well. Citrus Peppercorn says the Tulsi stuff has legs, but that was geared towards a Democrat audience. That's true. Mike Oxard says, I'm 4 twisted teas deep right now, and I'll say one thing. Kamala's the same as Biden. They're part of the same system, except she isn't demented. Yeah, I tend to agree. And like I've said, Biden's policies and his job approval is in the gutter for a reason. He's not popular. She's not popular. She's tied at the hip to Biden. She can't sever that tie regardless of what she does. And that's a problem that she's got. Real Texan Politics says, I wonder if Gabby Giffords being Mark Kelly's wife, along with her own attempt on her life, would be enough for Kelly to be Kamala's VP pick. Well, I mean, I don't know if his wife is going to be what drives her to do it. I think it's more because he's from a swing state and he's an astronaut, and that might be something. But like I said, it's people don't usually vote based on the VP. That's like a stop the bleeding type of ordeal. We already know it's a generic white guy. I don't think that Mark Kelly moves the needle in Michigan. I don't think Mark Kelly moves the needle much in Pennsylvania. I don't even think, they pulled head-to-head in Arizona, Trump and Mark Kelly. Trump beats him, not even as a VP, but as like the top of the ticket. Trump beats him in Arizona. That's the thing. I don't think the VP is really going to make or break Kamala Harris. I mean, if she picks somebody like Pete Buttigieg, I think it could significantly hurt her. I don't see a pick that significantly helps her. Even Josh Shapiro, I don't think, Pennsylvania, they'll say maybe a point or two there. But that might not be enough in and of itself. He's also never really been attacked. None of these people have really been attacked. I mean, didn't Mark Kelly himself have like a messy first divorce? I know that Ruben Gallego did, but I think that Mark Kelly did as well. But Mark Kelly, he didn't face a challenger that could fundraise. I mean, Masters was frozen out. He ended up losing by a decent amount, especially after a hard-fought primary too. Citrus Peppercorn says Kelly is a weak pick because he's bald. Yeah, but he's more of like a Chad bald, whereas somebody like a Rick Scott's more like an awkward bald. So I don't know. He's like an astronaut. It kind of balances out, but just being an astronaut isn't enough to get enough people to like sign on to the ticket necessarily. I don't know if he's even going to join it. He probably would be more likely to join it, in my opinion, than somebody like Josh Shapiro, because I don't think Mark Kelly has any, presidential aspirations for 2028. So him just being there is like, oh, I'll help the ticket, stay afloat. Even if we don't win, we're not going to get destroyed down ballot as much as if it's like a, Biden-Harris ticket or whatever. Mike Oxart says 2016 all over again, except it's DEI Hillary Clinton. Well, that's another thing. They're upset if you say the words DEI, but that's why she was chosen. Plain and simple. It's different if she had merits. It's different if she was objectively intelligent, even if you disagree. She's just not a very smart person, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of gender, regardless of any aspect of her identity. But she was picked because she checked enough woke boxes. That's why she was chosen. It wasn't because of anything else. It wasn't. She was 2016 election night. You go back on CNN, Van Jones, a little depressed. He's like, well, what are the bright spots of the night so far? Was we have a rising star who's a black woman senator. They say this stuff, but if you say this stuff, it's a problem. But they can say it if it suits their power struggle, because that's what it is. They're just angling for power. They're the ones that set the narrative. We don't get to set the narrative. We don't do it. We don't set narratives as much. We don't even have that much power to set the narratives within these institutions. Although I think we're getting more power with, even just like something small like Elon taking X back is enough to kind of start more of a right-wing narrative that gets set. Ice Cream Junkie for 10 says, with Harris being the likely nominee, how likely is it that Trump takes back historically red counties that he lost in 2020, like Kent in Michigan and Maricopa in Arizona? Kent might be a stretch, but I think he probably is going to take Maricopa, even though I think he takes it narrowly. Johnny Heartdog for 20 says, let's say they pull another bait and switch. Probably won't, but let's say they do. Who has the best shot at beating? Didn't we already answer that question? I thought that was already asked. Also, laws don't apply to those cunning snakes, so I'm not 100% sure that they'll run Harris. Well, they'd have to mount a campaign with zero cash from the bottom, and even then, they're already under fire for possible alleged money laundering that's been taking place. So they're already under fire for possible mishandling of funds, and the campaign hasn't even gotten off the ground yet. It's been not even 2 days. I don't know if these, lawsuits against him are going to go anywhere, but we'll see. Salt A says, "Hey, Rep, I predict a 1980-style election where RFK is akin to John B. Anderson gaining 6% of the vote, but is not a total sweep, which would mirror 92. I assume you mean like 96, unless you say total sweep in reference to 92. But, I think RFK Jr. is probably going to be more like a Gary Johnson type. I think he gets like 3%, if that. I just feel like his campaign doesn't really have a lot of money and energy behind it. They spent all the money just to get on the ballots. And what's the clear messaging? And he's got a bunch of scandals. He's never going to be attacked on him, though, obviously, because he's not relevant enough. But we'll see. Citrus Peppercorn says she grew up in Canada. I think she did. But again, that doesn't mean that she's like, because there's the other talking point that I've heard is that she's not eligible. No, she's eligible. If you're born in America, you're eligible, plain and simple. I think her parents, or at least one of your parents, is a natural born citizen. Even if you're not born in America, you're still eligible. That's the thing I never understood about the birtherism thing with Obama, is even if he was born outside the United States, if you just had one parent, which he did, that was an American citizen, it didn't matter. Which that's kind of the main takeaway. We've had people running for president that were not born in the United States. John McCain, I believe, was not born in the United States, even though he might have been born in a territory. You have other people that were eligible to run that were born on military bases. But Harris, even if she grew up in Canada, she was born in the United States, and maybe that's another reason why we got to do away with birthright citizenship, but I don't think that really applies to this case in full. I'd have to do more research on her upbringing, but it doesn't matter because she still would be eligible. Johnny Heart Dog says, "When I changed my residence, I was asked if I wanted to be an election official. Should have said yes, but didn't know what my work schedule would be." Well, I don't think that Alaska's a state that's known for shenanigans, but if people if people have time to volunteer, they should volunteer. Ice Cream Junkie for 10 says, "Does RFK Jr. hurt or help Trump?" I think it's pretty much a wash, honestly. I think he takes votes mainly from people that don't like either candidate but still want to show up and vote, kind of like Gary Johnson. I don't think a lot of his supporters are voting on ideological grounds. Citrus Peppercorn says, "Petition to get West on the ballot." I agree. Johnny Heart Dog says, "I don't think Harris is a natural born citizen." Well, she's born in America, so it doesn't matter. Dylan Allen says, "Harris will be the nominee. Her VP pick will be important. Mark Kelly or Gretchen Whitmer makes her more favorable in the Rust and Sun Belts without enraging the left. Ultimately, I think she loses." Well, Whitmer declined. It's not going to be Whitmer. I don't really understand how Mark Kelly is going to deliver Georgia. Harris probably herself is more effective in Georgia just because she might be able to increase black turnout. But again, in the suburbs, there's a problem. I don't think that when you are unlikable that a VP pick is going to save you. I think it's very similar to like the Tim Kaine situation with Hillary Clinton. It's like, okay, you pick a generic white guy to be your VP to like stop the bleeding. Does Mark Kelly really do that? I'm not really too impressed with his record in terms of debating. I think Blake Masters handled him very effectively, and I don't think that Blake Masters is like the best debater ever. I like the guy to an extent, but it's like he's not really all that strong other than like, oh, he's an astronaut. Oh, he has aesthetics. But again, he's the VP. He's taking the back seat. It's not like you're at the front of the ticket, and it's not like he's charismatic or anything like that. Dylan Allen for 10. Oh, we did that one. Okay. Nick A says, Lichtman says Dems lost the incumbency key but kept the party contest key. What are your thoughts on the keys are now? I think the keys are just stupid. They don't... And here's the thing. Democrats admitted that Biden couldn't win, but Lichtman said that Biden would have won had he stayed in. And we know that that's not true. Everybody knows that that's not true regardless of what ends up happening in this election. To the point where it's like, no, the keys are wrong. They don't really resonate with public opinion, and he's changed his interpretations of the keys in nearly every single election to the point where they're incompatible. Public perception technically shows that half the country thinks we're in a recession. There's been elections in the past where Lichtman has said that's enough to turn the key, but for this election, it's not enough to turn the key. And 2000, the keys were based on the popular vote, apparently. But 2016, Lichtman thought Trump would lose the Electoral College and said he would win the popular vote. But then, apparently after Trump won the Electoral College, lost the popular vote, the keys are back to the Electoral College. It's like, how does this exactly work? Doesn't make any sense to me. Doesn't make sense. Let's see. Brandon Fairbanks says, all this is so bad today. Coordinated attacks from polling industry, media, and campaign. The final push, fourth quarter, LFG, MAGA 24. I mean, we understand what's at. We're kind of, like I said, regardless of what happens, whether Harris somehow finds a way to victory or she loses worse than Biden would have, the main takeaway from it is that they're just willing to do anything possible. But no, we're told that we're conspiracists if we question how certain shady things went down in 2020, or, how did this random 20-year-old get a clear shot on the former president, or what? Like, there's so many things that are just obviously just very sus that are not able to be discussed in the main sphere, that are not able to even be mentioned in the main sphere. But everybody with half a brain understands that there's something up here. These things can't all be some sort of coincidence. Biden drops out because they know they can't beat Trump. And Kamala Harris, let them have, until the convention, let them have the false sense of security, I hope. She's probably going to be nominated virtually. She's going to be nominated in probably like 8 days even, is I think the earliest they may actually do it. Let her get that nomination, and then boom, you already know. You already know. Nicole Smith says, you think RFK Jr. will at some point drop out, and if he does, do you think he endorses Trump or Kamala Harris? I don't think he drops out, honestly. I think he stays in. I think he probably would rather endorse Trump than Kamala, but I think his pride is just allowing him to not do that. Dova Budgie 100 says, if Kamala the Hun picks Josh for VP, who becomes governor of Pennsylvania, whoever his lieutenant governor is? Also, what's with the dead Biden rumor, or they faked his voice at Kamala's speech? Well, that still could have been a pre-recording, but, he's alive. That Twitter account, the Global Report or whatever it's called, I guess they're just talking out of their rear end. Citrus Peppercorn says, so did Musk do the $45 million or not? Trump says yes, Elon says no. Well, here's the deal. Elon Musk apparently did put the super PAC together for Trump, but some liberal accounts are saying that he's backing off the $45 million promise. I'm kind of unsure as to what it is. Maybe that's not the full amount he's giving, or maybe it's a one-time thing. Who knows? He's still, obviously with Trump. He's trashing Harris on Twitter as we speak. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to shake out. Philip Garcia says Republicans have to get Kamala on the record as to whether she thinks Biden is fit to serve or not. She'll either look really out of touch or cowardly. I tend to agree. There's not really a way that they can spin it where, oh, he's fit to serve, but, he's not fit to run. Because that's not true. It's absolutely not true. Okay, I lost this. Okay, here we go. Ash K2 says, sad to say, but Trump is DOA. It's not true. He's not DOA. So many leftist creators like Hassan are excited, and so are his young audience, and a poll showed Harris 62-37. Well, that poll showed Harris losing. look, if people like Hassan Piker, like Kamala Harris, that's probably a bad sign for her electability, because the far left is not popular among the median voter. They'll be popular online. I mean, Trump might be DOA among, the far left. Oh, wow, you're telling me for the first time. It doesn't really mean much. Sam Madsen says, hot take, I think down ballot ticket splitting in favor of Democrats will be less under Harris than it would have been under Biden. It's possible. Ice Cream Junkie for 10 says, if Trump wins the Electoral College but not the popular vote for the second time, how serious do Democrats get about abolishing the Electoral College? Well, they wouldn't be able to. The swing states will cling on to the power that they have. There's no incentive for them to do that. Jeremy G says, I voted early for Kerry Lake for Senate. Well, yeah, that primary is a week from today. We'll finally get a primary stream down in Arizona. Brandon Sikora says, is it worth voting in Illinois if you're a Republican? Yes. We got to vote regardless of where we are. Don't waste a vote on a third party. Vote for Trump. Vote down ballot Republican. Doesn't really matter where. Real Texan Politics says Valentina Gomez is a grifting attention seeker running for Secretary of State in Missouri. Never talks about what she'd do as secretary. What is she hiding? Vote for Denny Hoskins. I've seen her tweets. I don't think I think, again, it's more of like an online thing. I think she's running to build a brand and be edgy more so than actually win. I would be very surprised if she won that primary, to be honest. I don't even know if she's even going to get 10% of the vote. Homer Simpson is a quidjigbo. I don't know what that is. For 5 says, first off, everyone should vote for the Prohibition Party this November. I assume that's a joke. And secondly, who do you see as Harris's VP between Mark Kelly and Andy Beshear? I don't know. It could be either or. I still think Roy Cooper is the favorite, and maybe I'm just clinging on to that because they're close friends, but you think that that's got to play some sort of a role. The VP pick will be lobbied for, her by a lot of people around her, but he's still on the short list. You would think she would have enough pull to select him. Because, does Josh Shapiro want to do it? And do they even want to have Shapiro on the ticket? Because they're worried, we don't want to lose the far left. We don't want to lose the Muslims if we put like a very pro-Israel guy on the ticket who happens to be Jewish. Like, that's actually part of their thought process now, which is kind of a very, very interesting turn of events compared to how you usually would expect these things to go down. But Democrats, they care more about power than identity politics after a certain point. That's why there's so many, token white guys on the list. It's all white guys except Whitmer, but she doesn't want it, so it's still going to be all white guys. Austin Lewis says, do you think Kamala's going to win? No, I don't think so. But again, there's so much uncertainty. I can't gauge the state of the election, which is a little nerve-wracking when you still can't gauge the state of the election when you're, 3 months out, basically, which is tough. Trump's still the favorite. Kamala's not likable, but I can't say either way if he's going to do better now. Is he going to do worse now? Is it more competitive? Democrats are more energized, that we know, but there's so much that we still don't know, to the point where it's tough. Jeremy Greenberg says, how big of a chance is Michelle Obama going to be the nominee? 0%. I don't want to say delete my channel, but I will delete. I'll delete 90% of the videos on my channel if it ends up being Michelle Obama. That's how confident I am. Because there's always the 0.1% chance, but it's below 1%. Like I said, if they ever actually thought she was a viable candidate for office, she would have been their nominee in 2020. She would have easily won if that was the thing. Austin Lewis says, do you think Trump's average will go up against Kamala? It's stabilizing pretty much. It's about the same. Some polls in here are better than others. Like the Reuters is garbage. Like 20% undecided, back and forth. Like Marist shows Trump gaining. So it's not like his average is really dipping. It's just different polls are coming into the mix. Let's see. Mike Oxard. This is Brent Peterson 2024. Look him up. Great policies. Nicole Smith says, how can Trump be up so much in Ohio, but Brown is polling to win by 6? Why do Republicans vote like this? Same thing in Arizona. Well, the problem for Democrats is a lot of those undecided voters support Trump. So you'd think they'd eventually come home for the Republican Senate candidate. Living May says, Mr. Beat thinks Kamala will keep it close to Trump. I don't really care, honestly. She could keep it close. I'm not saying that's not true, but I'm not saying that his analysis is necessarily definitive. Salt A says black men don't want black women to be in charge. Well, that's an underrated possibility of that. You know, is that a factor? Is that real? Black men don't resonate with Kamala. I feel like if there was a different black woman at the top of the ticket, it could be different though. But Kamala Harris, in a way, like she definitely has a problem, an image problem among black men. She doesn't have one with black women, but there's a lot of black men, especially those who are under 45, already don't like Biden, that just don't like Kamala Harris. So that's something to keep in mind. Tasmanot says, the softer human side of Trump is what he should be showing. We've all heard his border and economy shtick. Humor and compassion will win more votes. Let him do everything. Why not? You know, he goes golfing with the famous golfer. He's hitting that ball 250 yards down the fairway on the drive. You know, he's got the human side. He's shown the human side during the RNC. But, you know, people down the stretch, the undecided voters, I don't think he's going to win them over by talking about, I don't know, his personality. I think it's going to be policy as well. His personality is enough for the base. They already know his personality. I think that he really does need to talk about policy. Mitchell Ryan says, what do you think will happen with the House and the Senate? Well, I think that probably remains unchanged from the original prediction. A lot of it is down ballot effects from the top of the ticket. If Trump wins, probably you are going to see the House go red. I think the Senate's going to flip regardless, but that's beside the point. Like, their floor is 50. Kamala's not going to do better than Biden in Texas, especially with the border. You know, Ted Cruz is going to be just fine. Rick Scott is going to be just fine. Sheehy is going to win. Moreno, I still think, is probably going to win. So already you're going to have 52 seats. Past that point, there is a lot we don't know, but we'll see. Depueb says, Vivek says that we shouldn't focus on attacking her personality and go strong on messaging for our vision for the American people. Yeah, that's going to come first. That will come first. I think her policy is the most unpalatable thing about her to a lot of people. Because if you just get in a shouting match about whose personality is worse, they'll just say this thing about Trump and then you say this about Kamala. So yeah, it's there. Meme makers can lean on that. I'm not going to say that they can't do that. But as for the campaign, the messaging probably is better off focusing on her policies and her failed record, because that's what you have to go off of, more so than, oh, well, you know, she, used her body to advance her career. It's like, yeah, we know, but I don't think that's going to sway the undecided voters, really. I think that the media is just going to sensationalize those attacks as, oh, it's a bad look from Trump, even though it's true. It's 100% true. SJ says Kamala is a fringe left extremist. Quote unquote, I am in favor of saying that we're not going to treat people who are undocumented and cross the border as criminals. Well, yeah, that's the problem. And they haven't been doing that. They haven't really been doing that. That's a major problem. Pendoc says Obama chose Biden in 2008 to appeal to white guys. I mean, yeah, but I don't think, like Hillary was on the VP shortlist for Obama too. You know, it's not like he had to choose a white guy because white guy. Obviously, he was going to pick a white person probably. I don't think that he wanted to double down, too much on that ticket, especially at the time. But, yeah, the one big red for 10 says I don't know, wait, hold on. You have a good, confident delivery in your streams. My question is, now, if you think your Trump-Kamala map the other night was a bit too aggressive, made it large, really? Well, I'm trying to take a lot of things into equation here. The trajectory of the race. There was a poll that had Donald Trump beating her in New Hampshire recently by a point. Maine at large votes very similarly. And that's where RFK Jr. probably is going to take the most votes away from both, is up in that corner of the country. That being said, next prediction could be entirely different. I kind of want to wait and see how it shakes out for sure. I am not going to say it was jumping the gun because, they're snapshots in time. The next prediction might be a little bit more, less favorable to Trump, or it could be more favorable. Who knows? 8 days is an eternity in politics, but you're going to find out on my next prediction map on August 1st. We'll see how it shakes out. The Brother Logic RMF says Kamala's VP is Bernie Sanders. Well, that would definitely not help her, in my opinion, because Bernie's extraordinarily far left. But again, how much does the VP really move that needle? Like, even in regards to the Pete Buttigieg thing, it does, obviously it's gonna hurt, but does it hurt a significant amount? Because if he's at the top of the ticket, it'd be different. Now, definitely the VP can assume the presidency at any time. I'm not saying the position is entirely powerless, even though it's largely ceremonial, but it's not like the VP pick usually makes or breaks a presidential ticket. Is there a single VP pick that anybody can think of in recent history that was the single reason why a campaign, or a main reason why a campaign failed? The answer is no. There really isn't one that I can think of. And is there a VP that single-handedly saved a campaign? People will point to, Mike Pence gave people security for voting for Trump if they were uncertain about him because he's like a generic Republican. But again, any generic Republican could have probably produced that effect. Mike Pence was just the one he chose. Someone said Al Gore. People say, the thing about Sarah Palin is when McCain picked Palin, they went up in the polls. And then the financial crisis hit, and then he just took a nosedive and lost like 10 points of ground between that point and the election. There's so many factors at play to the point where Palin, I don't think you could say is a bad pick, especially because McCain came out of the neocon side. Palin kind of balanced it out. She gave a voice to the more grassroots, which definitely probably energized a lot of turnout. But, even if she did hurt the ticket on net, you can't really say she single-handedly sunk the ticket because it wasn't a close election at all, plain and simple. McCain had a lot of issues. But I can't think of a single VP that really hurt a ticket electorally. Some people say, Spiro Agnew. Nixon won pretty easily. I don't know if that's true. Paul Ryan was not really a good pick, but Romney, I don't think Romney would have won if he picked anybody else. Like, people said at the time Rubio could have been a pick. He probably could have delivered Florida, but I don't think that he would have delivered even like an Ohio or an Iowa. Dick Cheney. He won. If Bush lost, maybe you could point to Dick Cheney. I don't know if that's that's kind of a wash, because him and Lieberman were both pretty big, war hawks. Let's see. Punch a Bunch Bear says, I'm warning people that Harris gets reelected because of mail-in ballots, suburban women, angry Rose overturned, warning people about the... Look, this guy says the same super chat every stream. But the main takeaway that I've said every time remains the same, and that is Harris will, and this is different technically now because of Harris. I'm not so worried about the abortion thing, but Harris definitely will energize, in my opinion, more of the Democrat base than Biden. The problem is a lot of these independent voters, that it does include a lot of suburbanites, they are going to be off-put by her for other reasons. I don't think abortion sticks as much when the Republicans are running a moderate on the topic, and we're over 2 years after the Dobbs v. Jackson decision. The issue of abortion is waning by the day. If you want to hear Kamala talk about abortion, go to my channel, go to the Shorts panel, and then watch the second to last short that's been uploaded. That's Kamala's abortion messaging, by the way. Just saying. I don't know how they somehow find a way to put somebody less palatable to the median voter than Biden out there. But again, we have to be effective in our attacks or they won't stick, because we are up against the media. Plain and simple. Let's see. Where were we? The Omega Ranger says, one way to slam Kamala is point out the DNC's refusal to let Koof go. If it wasn't for forced SCOTUS, the DNC would have made face napkins a permanent mandate. I don't think COVID's like going to be a top issue, though. I don't think most people care about it. It's probably best that Trump doesn't remind people about it anyways. Citrus Peppercorn says, give HHS to RFK. Obama did the same thing. Well, if he drops out and endorses Trump, it just depends. I think they need to see some polling on that before. And I'm pretty sure he's going to be on the ballots regardless at this point. So Johnny Heartdog for 20 says, concerning the campaign money, they need Harris to keep the money. But how do we know that they have not already been saving money so they could ditch Harris? Not trying to be conspiratorial, but these people are snakes. Well, they would still have to lose that money. I'm sure they'd be able to raise money for a new person. It's just not likely. They're not willing to go through all that hassle and all that stuff. And more chaos probably would doom their brand as a party and probably hurt them even more. BB says, Trump takes back Tarrant, Texas as well. By the way, people need to stop dooming. We have the energy, the issues, and the VP for president that is minus 20. Well, look, I need people to be energized and I need people to be scared about Kamala Harris. But we need them not to be scared in a dooming way, but scared in like a I'm energized to vote way. I feel like some of the way that people are acting is if like, oh, the walls are closing in and we can't win this thing. Like, that's not the right takeaway. Like, that's just stupid. That's dumb. We got this, but we just got to make it happen. You know, the messaging, this is make or break for Trump is the next few weeks in the messaging for his campaign. And it's a good thing that he has competent people around him that understand how to navigate messaging in politics, because he's been running a near spotless campaign up to this point. Gabster13B says, the first time I ever agreed with BLM, they went on Kamala and the DNC. Check on X. Check it out. Great statement. First time I agree, and I'm black. Well, I think the thing that they're trying to do is have like a snap primary and virtue signal about that. It's not like they are opposed to Kamala Harris, but technically they are right in a way that you can't claim to be, I love democracy, and then you just replace the nominee that with somebody nobody's ever voted for in a Democrat primary. Nobody's ever voted for them and is not likable. And it's a problem. There's no open debate. I mean, they already basically rigged the first set of primaries, and every single primary since, after 2008, they've done the same thing. It's literally the opposite of the Democratic Party. Well, what do you want to name it? Name it something else. I'm not one of these defenders that LARPs about democracy like all these other people do. But at the end of the day, yeah, these are the same people. That's what they're trying to, the message they're trying to sell to voters is a message that is based on the most obvious lie that literally everybody can see. Everybody can see it. Let's see. Yeah, the establishment party. That's true. All right, let's see. We have more super chats. John Waffle H2 pieces. Apparently Harris had a big crowd in Milwaukee. It was not a big, it was probably bigger than most Biden crowds for sure, but I wouldn't say that's a big crowd. You're in a high school gymnasium. This is like your first big event in a swing state in the largest city, and you pull like maybe 1,000 people, including media. It's like the average Hillary Clinton rally from 2016 at best. Which now I think you probably will see more celebrity endorsements roll out for Kamala. But it might not be enough. Let's see. Mike Oxard says, do you think RFK Jr. will drop out and endorse Trump in return for a cabinet position, maybe head of FDA? I think he would best fit in that position. We kind of covered that with the other super chat. I think it's a slim possibility. I think they talked about it, but there was some like divide And I think that RFK Jr. was just trying to like overplay his hand with it. And then he's out there trashing Trump the next day. So it's like it's not going to happen, most likely. Living Maze says, is Kinzinger or Romney a possibility for Kamala? Well, I've thought about that. Because some people are like, Democrats should run Romney. And it's like, no, they'd lose probably. Because what Democrat's going to turn out for like an actual, the Republican nominee 12 years ago at the top of the ticket? Like, it doesn't work that way. But as the VP, now that things could get interesting, I don't think that he would join them, but you never know. Kinzinger, on the other hand, he's such a dork. He's such a crybaby, though. I mean, honestly, that kind of would. I don't think he would necessarily help the ticket. He's such a grifter. He's like, oh, I'm a former Republican. I'm a proud rhino. It's like you voted with Biden's last 2 years in office nearly in unison. So he's a grifter. He's a fraud. Like the Lincoln Project people, they're not Republicans. They're like, oh, we're the Republicans. We're Republicans endorsing Kamala Harris. If you endorse this nutjob, you were never a Republican. You just have TDS. Plain and simple. Citrus Peppercorn says they set a record in fundraising as Trump released the fundraising from the blank attempt. I don't think he has. I don't think that's numbers you want to release, because it's like, oh, well, look, this happened because of this. It's like the RNC pulled in a lot. Harris definitely pulled in a lot. I'm not denying that, even though some of those donations may be suspect and are under review for sure. But she'll get a boost. She'll get a boost. Mike Griffin says, I think Trump should focus on the issues and avoid personal attacks against Kamala. You risk energizing black and suburban white women even more. Yeah, I don't think he's going to go in at the personality a whole lot, but I think that there's levels to it. I mean, I'm not saying, like, sure, he's going to attack his personality. I think policy needs to come first and foremost, but him saying laughing Kamala is not going to hurt him with any voters, all things considered. Women don't really like Kamala's personality either, for the record, but, Trump needs to come off measured. There's a lot of things that he might want to say that he probably just doesn't need to say, even if they're 100% true. And Republicans need to just laser focus in on this is why she's dangerous for America, because there's enough subject matter on policy where the personality doesn't really matter. Jeremy G for 5 retracted. Base Cat says Cenk fell in line with the anointed dim candidate. Nobody's surprised. Tech Shadows says if RFK endorsed Trump, would that be a game changer? Maybe not, because him on the ticket probably, you could argue, could help Trump some places. Or just him running his own ticket, that is, not on Trump's ticket, because he's not going to be there. Tasmanaut for 2 says WTF, Musk appears to be backtracking. I think they're overblowing it. Either that or the initial reports were overblown. He is putting a super PAC together for Donald Trump. I don't know how much money he's giving it, though. The Jaded Kriegsman with a member chat says, we can't get complacent. Don't underestimate women who think killing a baby is the only freedom that matters. Dems win and game over for America. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to underestimate that, but it is true that abortion's not going to be enough for Democrats to win this election on their own, because it's not an issue that is probably even top 2, arguably not even top 3. And how many years has it been? 2 years already since the Dobbs decision. Most people have just accepted it. Kamala Harris, talking about abortion, making this like a gender war. It's like, what man is going to vote for Kamala Harris? Plain and simple. I can't name one that would be self-respecting, that would be straight, obviously, remotely masculine, that would vote for that individual. I can't name a single one. Why would you? What's the appeal? Go to the gym and ask people, do you like Kamala Harris? Probably everybody's going to say no, for good reason. Milky Way Gaming says Gen Z loves Harris. Is this going to be like 2008? I don't think they do. It's astroturfed. Gen Z, yeah, they like her. They like her the way Harry Sisson loves Biden. Okay, these people are insufferable. I don't think they speak for this generation. The people that think it's going to be like 2008, how? How's it going to be like 2008? Obama, the first time he ran, he won the primary against somebody who they said was unbeatable in Hillary Clinton. You look at Kamala Harris, she flamed out. She can't function on her own. Now the people running her primary campaign that ran it into the ground are going to be the same people apparently running this campaign. So I'm not worried about it whatsoever. I don't know any people that like her in real life, for the record. I even know some people that voted for Biden and are okay with Biden that don't like her in real life. So that's kind of an issue that Democrats may have on their hands, is that she's just not likable. But I mean, she will, for partisan Democrats, I feel like she does give them a short-term lifeline, a short-term energy boost. The question is, how big is that going to be? How long does it last? And is it going to be enough to beat Trump and to wade through all of the attack ads, which are going to be easy? You don't have to lie or take her out of context to make her look bad, the way that they try to do with Trump, because it's just so obvious. Citrus Peppercorn says Sheila Jackson Lee died. Okay. I'm not going to read the rest of that. She died. I never liked her, but it is what it is. It is what it is. I have nothing nice to say, but I'm not going to say anything. That's the way it goes. But thanks for the super chat. Spence Callis says, Vivek for White House Chief of Staff, would he take it? Possibly he'd take it. I don't know where he's going to be in the administration, though. He could be there. Could be a lot of other places. Wherever Trump needs him, he'll be. Assuming we win, which you don't know. I think Trump's going to probably win. But they're definitely trying to really shake up this race, and they're just in chaos mode. Oh, we'll burn down the entire party in hopes that we somehow win, is kind of what they're trying to do. And is that even a strategy that works? I can't say it is. They cooed Biden. He's cooed. A soft coup, but they cooed him. Probably when he was sleeping, they dropped him out for him. He probably woke up and was furious. You honestly almost want to feel bad for the guy, but you know, what can I say? Dustin Enoch for 10 says, all I know is that this election cycle already has me beyond exhausted. The next 4 months are going to be beyond brutal. Would be nice not to have any history-making headlines for at least a week. I know. Oh, it's exhausting. It's good for business, but it's exhausting, past a certain point. Colin Laverne for 2 says, what news station has the best election coverage? Red Eagle Politics, and I'm not just saying that. I mean, I think most people would agree. We'll be here covering the primary next Tuesday in Arizona. Johnny Heartdog says, John Anderson's gainings. Sorry for asking the same question twice earlier. That's what happens as you approach 25. No, it's okay. I'm not complaining about it. Corn Pop's Revenge says, if she's not DEI, where are her delegates from? The voters? Exactly. I mean, she was chosen because. And again, that's not really going to be the best messaging to win over voters. I feel like, I agree, but it shows that she was like, you could hint at just reality while you're doing this. I could imagine Trump on the debate stage, assuming there's a debate, doing this and being like, you didn't even win your primary. You were picked off the 2020 trash sheet by Biden for whatever reason, and you saw, and he could just go on and on about how she couldn't get anywhere on her own, and talk about how she's propped up by special interests and go from there, which is 100% true. Mr. Jimmy said, thoughts on the libs hyping up Kamala as Obama 2008? I think it's a joke. I mean, Obama 2008 and Kamala, like, Kamala can't even fill up a high school gym in Milwaukee. Obama filled up Michigan Stadium in Ann Arbor, which is like the biggest stadium in the country, and I think he did it several times. It's a joke. It's a big joke. Dustin Enoch says, we just need Tulsi to derail her again, a la 2020. Well, maybe she'll be a good campaign surrogate for Trump. She hasn't been on the trail from what I've seen so far. I don't even know if she's all that close to Trump, but we'll see. Nick Hastings says, what will Kamala's October surprise be? I have no idea. I don't know if Willie Brown has some old recordings, but it might be illegal if he leaked those, but who knows. Nicole Smith says Trump should tag team in Tulsi during the debate. Yeah, well, I don't think that's how it works. It's one-on-one, not two-on-one. The Omega Ranger says, what can be unburdened by what has been? I love electric buses. Venn diagrams are the best. Random disturbing laughter. Yeah, in terms of her personality, I think these are attacks that are fair game. Is just play clips of her talking, period. Like, she's just weird. It's just, like, off-putting. Like, that's what needs to be hammered home, for sure. Chico's Monkey Farms, did you have any concern that Trump will pick Larry Fink or the BlackRock executive to run his Treasury Department? He said the rumors were false, which I'm glad he said that. So probably not. Michigan Nationalist says if Kamala picks Jimmy Carter for VP, are Dems going to win Georgia? I don't know why you'd pick a VP. There's probably more likely that she'll pick Biden as the VP. Imagine they flip the ticket. There's no chance of it happening, but who knows? If they did that, they could be like, oh, well, it's democracy. It's like, then why is the ticket flipped? Why? Presidential Mike says, how long do you think it'll take until the Harris buzz to cool off? Should Trump freeze Kamala out and not debate her? She doesn't have an agenda. Well, I think that there are a lot of underrated problems for Harris, and I think one of them is the fact that this is like the peak of the energy buzz and the Democrat insufferability, at least until the convention. Like, it's going to cool off. Then you'll have the VP pick, which I don't think moves the needle much, especially on the national stage. And then you have the convention a couple weeks after. So, overall, I probably would say that it's not gonna likely last. I mean, it'll pop up at times, but the initial shockwave is usually the biggest. FM32047 says Harris losing ground in New Mexico could help Dominici win. Well, we'll see how much ground she loses. Tasmanot says fear should drive you to fight, fight, fight. So true. And we can't let people forget about that moment, because I feel like all this chaos is just taking away from it, and that's like probably the most demoralizing thing about all of this is how epic that moment was. And Trump needs to use that in a lot of campaign ads, and he needs to not let people forget about it for sure. DePweb says thoughts on the recent attack ads on Kamala. I think they're pretty good, because a lot of it is just her talking. Like, it's slightly edited. I mean, it's not edited like out of context though, but it's edited well. Like, they're well put together. BB says Kamala Harris is Hillary with Biden's issues. Relax. I agree. I think that in many ways she's less likable than Hillary, which was Hillary's #1 Achilles heel. Alec Prentice for 5. Thank you. Priscilla's Vivo says, what if Trump just stays quiet until the Democrats' convention? Well, you don't want to be forgotten about. He's kind of been more low-key. I mean, he's holding, 2 rallies a week? It's pretty good. I mean, people don't care about Truth Social for the most part. Like, at least as much people that followed his Twitter and his tweets. Like, they're not as likely to reach the mainstream media. The Jaded Kriegsman says Republicans should just play the clip of Tulsi destroying Harris in the 2020 debate. They'll probably change a few minds. Well, like I said, and as another super chatter said, that was more geared toward a liberal audience. Eric Barron says laughing Kamala doesn't hit the same as names like Crooked Hillary and Sleepy Joe. Well, I think he's pivoting now to Lion Kamala, which, how good is that? Who knows? I think Crooked Kamala works. Replace the C with a K. Have it be like Crooked Kamala. That could also work, because she is crooked. She is a lie, but she is a liar. She's Lion Kamala. Like, what nickname should he give? It's kind of a hard name to really parody, but we just hit 187,000 subscribers on a positive note. Make sure you guys like the stream and subscribe if you haven't yet. Let's hit 1,000 likes on the stream. We're so close. We're so close. Some say cackling Kamala. That's just kind of a mouthful. I get it. I thought he would go with that instead of laughing Kamala. But I don't know. Scamala? That's like the Daily Wire's nickname that they're giving. Someone said he already used lion with... well, he used crooked with Hillary and Biden. He used sleepy with like 50 different people. Mr. Jimmy says, why are people saying Trump will replace Vance? Because they're just dumb. Look, most people, like, they're upset because Vance, I don't know, they think he's awkward or something. But these are the same people who wanted Ron DeSantis to become president. And he was pretty awkward. That's why his campaign didn't do well. I mean, just objectively speaking. So, you know, the VP, he's a nice guy, and he's very humble, wholesome. He made a joke about Mountain Dew that people didn't sit well with. Okay, whatever. It's all noise, man. It's all noise. Mike Oxard says, Cochlin, Crooked, Kamala, the initials. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how that would go, but I think that Crooked with the K would be good. I don't know I think there's a confusing optics. Confusing, for sure. But I think Vance needs to hit his stride. I think that everybody agrees. Probably Vance himself agrees, because he's not used to doing these events in front of all these people. And he needs to hit his stride. I think the number one constructive criticism that I would give Vance about his speaking is probably the amount of pauses that he does when he speaks, because he pauses a lot, and that can kind of come off as like, I don't know, uncertainty or awkwardness or whatever. So he just needs to, I don't know, keep the flow better when he's speaking, and I feel like he's going to captivate the crowd better. But I think he's doing pretty well, all things considered. It's not like, I don't think he's bombing the way some people say he is, but, you know, what can I say? He's kind of brings a little bit of a different edge to the ticket. I don't think that Donald Trump has any, you know, regrets about the pick. He had a lot of people to pick from. He vetted them extensively, and Vance is who he settled on. So we'll see. But I doubt he'll get... They already nominated him. There's no replacement. These reports aren't real. It's like Rufus tier lies that we see. People want to be proven right so badly about certain things that they say, and it's just like, just let it go. Like, there's some polls that have him below water in favorable rating, but I mean, they have a lot of people below water in favorable rating, so I would kind of take those with a grain of salt. So let's see. Alec Prentice has a decent amount of Florida moderate Republicans voted Biden in 20, mainly because of COVID fear, many of whom hated Harris. Trump wins Florida even easier now. I agree, Harris in Florida, and I actually wish that in the prediction, people say, how would you change it? Probably would have made Texas safe red, just because of her stances on energy. Immigration's a disaster. She owns the border crisis, arguably more so than Biden does, because Biden gave her power over the border. Hamster Eater 96 says, honestly, Mike Garcia would have been a better VP. I like Mike Garcia, but he wasn't going to be selected because of the congressional seat he's in. So I don't know how that would have worked out. I also have never seen him speak. You know, people talk about speaking. It's like there's a lot of names that people like to float. Oh, well, they did well on an election. They overperformed. But there's so many different factors at play. But I don't think Vance is going to hurt Trump at all. I think he has a big potential to help him. I think he probably is finding his groove as we speak. A lot of people loved his speech at the RNC. But, you know, he's not, like I said, his goal is not to bring the House down anyways. Like, I could go find a speech from, Mike Pence where it's awkward, or Tim Kaine where it's awkward, or any VP pick in history where it's a little awkward. If the big scandal is he's, like, making a joke about Mountain Dew, then you really need to just find a better attack line on the guy, because that's just stupid. Let's see. John Waffle H2P, Dems using Harris says, as a former prosecutor, going up against Trump the felon is pathetic. Their plan will backfire since we know the justice system is corrupt. Yeah, I mean, that's like kind of common knowledge at this point. Like this whole, oh, well, she's going to prosecute the felon. It's like we already know Trump got convicted. Nobody believes that it's a serious crime. A lot of people correctly believe that the case was a sham and that there was no real crime at all that was committed, and it wouldn't have been brought against anybody except Donald Trump, which is by definition the weaponization of the justice system. BB says, Fabrizio said to ignore the noise this week. He's right. I think it's a lot of noise. You could speculate. It's good to hear what different people are saying and how the race could go, but at the end of the day, what can I say? Dova Budgie 100 says, Fumio Kishida better be friends with Trump because Abe already used his ghost powers to save his life. We need this alliance. Yeah, a lot of people have made that joke about Abe. Peter Gabriel, self-suck for 20, said in Trump's voice, Kooky Kamala's an alcoholic. I walked in and said, wow, it smells like booze in here. Yeah, I don't think that's an attack line he's going to use. I don't think he's going to use that attack line. I don't know if she's an alcoholic, but she does look like she's on something, like Xanax or something probably. Eric from Wisconsin for 10 says, everyone, pop quiz. Who will you vote for in the Wisconsin Senate race? Eric Hovde. So true. Every stream, I think, almost. It's a good reminder. I appreciate the reminder. For the Wisconsinites in chat, we probably have at least maybe a couple dozen. Dustin Enoch says Vance comes across like a normal guy. Doesn't sound like a politician, which I think throws people off. He's also new to this much attention. Yeah, because like somebody like Mike Pence didn't have any charisma, but it was like he did have like the politician aura, whereas Vance is just like, I don't know. He just comes across like he comes across like he's humble, which does kind of in a way gel well with his life story that he kind of has as like his brand. MS1711 says 2 questions. Where did the mainstream media get the Larry Fink cabinet story from? And 2, which is better for Vivek, replacement senator appointment for Vance or DHS or similar? It really just depends. I don't know what cabinet head he'd lead. I think he might be better at like Treasury. But I don't know where the mainstream media, sometimes they leak these reports to see how well they're received or who knows. They're known for leaking fake stuff and it's like strategic. Mike Oxarts is horrific Harris. I don't know if that's the best nickname that Trump could use. He'll settle on something. Base Cats is predicted shitlibs are pumping phony Kamala. Let me check predict it right now. I know Polymarket moved a little bit. Yeah, Trump is only at 55 on predict it. On Polymarket, he's at 61. I think we just need everything to settle in before we really kind of like talk a lot about how this race is going to change for sure. But let's see. Someone said, how about horizontal Harris? Well, look, like I said, I think that Trump is best suited attacking her on the merits. But, you know, people are going to meme about this stuff like, yeah, why not? But, like, I don't think that should be, like, Trump's job. Even though it'd be funny, it's not usually, I don't know, maybe. It just feels like he hasn't done that in a long, long time. And his new, like, strategy, it's incompatible with it in a way. But I think he does it in subtle ways. When he was talking about poll numbers, he misspelled the word poll as like, you know, how they spell like a stripper pole, P-O-L-E. And people are like, oh, it's a typo. Oh, he can't even spell correctly. But it's like, no, I think he probably was like a little subtle jab. Maybe. I don't know. I don't care. I think it's funny either way. But yeah, no, Kamala Harris. And just the fact is, if she wins, meritocracy is even more dead than it already is. Because, you know, whether it's the best attack line for Trump to use or not, she is a DEI candidate who did sleep her way into any sense of prominence in politics. And it would just prove that there is no meritocracy at all. And she'll be carried by the media and possibly shenanigans. So get out and vote. That's all that matters. Mike Oxard says, horror show Harris. I'm done. I mean, her laughing is a horror show in and of itself. Plain and simple. But I think we're going to end the show. I mean, we've been going on for a long time. It's 11 o'clock here in Texas. It's past midnight on the East Coast, and we'll end the show. We're going to do an expose on Harris, mainly on policy, sometime this week. I think today or tomorrow, or I guess you would say the 24th or the 25th, Wednesday or Thursday. Also, Nick Cage for 2. That'll be the last super chat of the night. Make sure you guys like the stream down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video or live stream. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.